What's good? You are now rocking with the Bigs. My name is Herb Howard alongside Nick Moreano. Nick, the marathon is complete. Bears just wrapped up day 3 of the NFL draft.
You know, a little under here, 740, but
Yeah.
all three days, 7 rounds.
Yeah.
Bears did their thing, 8 draft picks, and we're here to break it down here.
Well, we're here to about 1 a.m. on day 1, about midnight on day 2.
Yep.
And we're going to get out while the sun is still kind of up on day 3.
That's good for me, but obviously there's a lot to talk about with all these players, and it honestly starts with Colston Loveland being that first round draft pick here.
Yeah, I think, just the Bears coming into this draft with a lot of flexibility allowed them to literally just kind of let the board fall to them. I know there were some things that they certainly wanted to get done, some positions they certainly wanted to address, but I think they showed a lot of discipline and just kind of leaning on that flexibility, allowing the board to fall to them, and they get Colston Loveland with their first pick at number 10. I know Tyler Warren was on the board. There were some edge rushers on the board as well. But the Bears like Colston Loveland. I think his versatility, his route running ability, his ability to separate out in space, but also his ability to come in and block. The Bears think he's a better blocker than most people give him credit for. I think that's going to allow them to do a lot of different things out of different personnel groupings, 2 tight ends, flex them out wide, do different things with them there.
I mean, just a lot of possibilities for Ben Johnson and just another playmaker for Caleb Williams. So when you really think about, could they have gone a defensive player or even the other tight end in Tyler Warren, landing on Colston Loveland, I think, was a good choice for what the Bears are looking to do with their offense, how they want to build it with Ben Johnson's scheme and the system, and it complements a guy like Cole Kmet. So it's a win-win situation for what went ahead of the Bears there, and there's a lot of obviously quality players that I think the Bears would have probably been interested as well, but Colston Loveland, your first pick.
Makes a ton of sense, man. I think also just looking at this thing big picture for Ryan Poles, this is really kind of like the first draft where he was able to come into it not necessarily looking for starters at this position or that position, but just trying to find good football players, best players available, top of the board in different situations. I think Colston Loveland fit that to a T for what they really, really wanted to do.
Yeah, because their previous drafts, obviously the Bears were not in the same position that they are today, where they do have some quality starters at premium positions. So as you're approaching this draft, assessing your board, it doesn't have to necessarily be let's go for the need as opposed to what is the board saying. So, and we just heard from Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, and they stayed true to their board in their first draft together, and that's how they kind of came up with the 8 players that they selected throughout the last 3 days.
Great discipline from them. Lots of questions I kept getting on Twitter, and I get them from fans all over the place. I get them from different show hosts. Whose draft is this? Whose pick is this? Is this Coach Johnson's draft? Is this Ryan Poles' pick? I think it's both of theirs. They're both working together collaboratively to get the best players for the Chicago Bears. Of course, Coach Johnson's going to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do on the football field. I need these types of players to be able to do that. And then Ryan Poles will try to go get them. But it's a collaborative effort. And I think they displayed that throughout the weekend by being patient, letting things fall to them and not, reaching for guys or, going up and, buying guys that maybe were too expensive at different times.
Well, I think, Herb, if it was the other way around where it's one person's draft, that's not 2 guys working together. That's not a team working together. So you can't make that work if you're a NFL organization. And, from what we've been hearing, the communication's been great with the coaching staff, how they operated in the draft room. So it is a true collaboration to make this effort kind of happen here.
As it should be. I don't know why people want to separate those 2 dudes. I tell you who does want to separate. The Bears' second-round pick, Luther Burden III out of Missouri. Kid comes in, great speed, great run after the catch ability, very fluid in and out of his routes, very competitive. He still seems to have that edge. I know we talked about it yesterday when they drafted him. We was like, hey, on that initial Zoom call, he was a little edgy. Even today, you still felt that just kind of competitive fire. He literally said things like, I kind of got it out of my system, but I remember who didn't pick me, who picked other receivers in front of me, and they're going to have to see me. And then later on, he said, I just want to prove that I'm the best.
Yeah, no, I like that edginess that he brings, and it's just something to put, the little chip on his shoulder, right, for all the teams that passed on him in the first round. And I asked him about Ben Johnson's been talking about this no block, no rock mentality, right? And Luther said it was fair and that he's all about it. He loves the block. So, and what was interesting right here from Ben Johnson, he was kind of saying, with the competition for all these pass catchers, how are you going to evaluate and create an environment that's just going to, facilitate that? He's really interested in watching these players when they don't have the football, when they're not the number one in the progression. How are you guys running routes? How are you guys blocking for your teammates? If you guys are doing that at a high level, then we're going to want to get you as a coaching staff the ball more. So I think it just aligns perfectly with, what Burden likes to do and like what this team is going to have to do, these players, to get the rock when, they think they should.
That accountability conversation is going to be out the window this year.
Yeah.
You can already tell that every T is going to be crossed, every I is going to be dotted. Just talking to Eric Bieniemy and Coach Antoine Randall last week when we had the sessions with the assistant coaches, and then continuing to hear those same things from Coach Johnson, he's going to be watching everything. Like, I know what the play is. I know where the ball's going. I'm looking on the backside. How hard are you running this route? How hard are you trying to get down there and dig out that linebacker? Hustle to the ball, help out. Like, those types of things are going to matter. And when you look at this roster and you talk about competition, those things are going to matter. The Bears already invested in this slot position this year. They brought in Alameda Zacchaeus. They also have Devin Duvernay, more of a kick returner, but he's here. You draft Colston Leveland, who can also fill in for the slot for you. So you want to get on this field. I don't care what your name is, what your position is, what your contract is. You're going to have to do things right. I think they're going to hold guys accountable across the board.
Well, and Ben Johnson said, too, there is no depth chart at this point in time. So,
Told them all.
He told them all. Like, that's DJ Moore. That's your number 9 overall pick in Roma Dunze as well. Like, everybody has to do their respective job, regardless if you're number 1 in the progression or not. And, again, like you said, that accountability, I don't think it's going to be an issue this year. So, at any point in time, these coaches are going to be watching. If you're not doing your job, you're not going to get the rock.
Let's put the great Nick Moreano on the spot right now.
Oof.
Luther Burden III.
Yep.
He's in the slot when the season starts.
Ooh, so they're going 11 personnel starting off. Man. Yeah, I think once training camp kind of unfolds here, I know we just mentioned Zacchaeus. Yeah, he'll be there starting out. And, it might change week to week there, Herb, when you're thinking about, like, matchups and things like that. But, Ben Johnson, when he described him, he literally said one word: stud. Stud. Have you seen his highlights?
Yeah.
Like, we have,
You can feel the energy from him.
We have. So I think he's definitely capable of that type of playmaking ability.
Nothing wrong with having waves of playmakers either. We talk about waves of defensive linemen and stuff like that. Waves of playmakers coming on and off the field, still being able to hit top speed. Listen, if you got LB3, coming off the field because he just ran 60 yards down the field, and then Alameda Zacchaeus comes on to replace that, and you got the same kind of level of ability. It's a really, really good problem to have.
No doubt about it. Well, so the Bears were starting off their draft skilled players.
Yep.
Right, addressing still the offense. And, even going into day 2, after Burden, still stick with the offense, but then start to address the trenches here with Ozzie Trapillo, the Boston College tackle, has a little bit of versatility. He's literally played every single position but center. But I just think how the Bears are viewing him, you love his size, you love his ability, that he should be someone that's coming in here to compete.
Yep.
And again, they just need to add more to that position group in general, just to feel good about where they're at and, obviously getting some young talent in there.
He's consistent, he's dependable, he's available, he's smart, tough, plays the game really, really well. I like everything he had to say about wanting to get on the field as soon as possible and wanting to do whatever it's going to take. And I think just having more guys in that room, maybe the Bears wanted to dip into this offensive tackle pool earlier, but the top 3 offensive tackles win the top 9. They weren't there for the Bears. And so, the Bears go ahead and took the skill position guys, and they come back, and I think they still give themselves a pretty good football player in young Ozzie Trapillo, babyface Ozzie Trapillo.
Babyface is right, but hopefully. And I asked him about, playing with violence, because Shamar Turner was somebody that talked about playing with violence on the defensive line side. But
you're gonna get to him.
I just wanted to know if that's in him, because he big smiles. Obviously, it's a big day for him getting drafted, but he said it's definitely there, and you have to play control. You got to play controlled as an offensive lineman, but you can also be very violent as well.
I remember one of the first questions, maybe the first question I ever asked of Braxton Jones was, have you ever been in a fight?
Yeah, I remember that.
Because he's such a nice guy. I love Braxton Jones. He's such a nice guy, and that came through in his introductory press conference upstairs. And something just came. I was like, I don't know if this guy has ever punched anybody. And he's like, you mean like on the football field? No, I don't mean on the football field. I mean somebody pissed you off and you punched them in their face. Because I think offensive linemen just need a little bit of that.
They have to.
And Ozzie kind of reminds me of that type of nice guy. But as long as you have that mean streak on the football field, it'll work out just fine. He's a big guy. I love his technique, his instincts. I think he's going to be able to come in and compete. And I think, listen, Braxton Jones is going to start training camp on the shelf a little bit as he continues to rehab. That's going to give Ozzie an opportunity to throw his hat in that ring. And once you get an opportunity, who knows what happens? Is Darnell Wright able to go over to the left side because they think maybe Ozzie's better on the right side? Can Ozzie play left himself? Like, all those different things will come into play. But I think he's going to have an opportunity starting in the spring and going clear through the summer to say, hey, I can help right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And another player that I think is also going to have an opportunity is Shamar Turner on the interior of the defensive line, especially because if he plays with that violence, that knockback that the Bears are seeing in him already, you're going to earn yourself some playing time. And even though you have guys like Grady Jarrett in front of you and Jervon Dexter, that will get you on the playing field. And I just think that what he said, like, the Bears are not trying to change me. And he loves that part of it. So go out and be him.
Let the dogs out, man.
Exactly.
Let the dog loose. If he got it in him, let it go, man. When Grady Jarrett came here, we talked about some of him, that fire and him playing with that edge, and he talked about it's necessary, man. And I think you see some of the same things in Shamar Turner, and I think if he's able to harness that energy and unleash it in the right way onto the offensive line, I think he's going to find himself in the regular rotation. I think that's a really, really good thing. You talk about having 4 D tackles that you feel pretty good about at this point. You already named, Jarrett and Dexter. You also got Big Billing still in there.
Absolutely.
Now you talk about Shamar Turner. You can go 2 on, 2 off, and however you figure out that rotation, you keep guys fresh. You keep guys run stuffing and penetrating. I think he was a really, really good pickup, and I just loved his energy and his demeanor.
Yeah.
When we talked to him over Zoom yesterday, it was similar again today, but yesterday when he first found out in the moment, man, I just felt so good for that kid. That
it was contagious, man. It was contagious, and he's healthy too. So he's dealing with some injuries, but now he's healthy, and should be some good things that we see from Shamar Turner.
When I talked to defensive coordinator Dennis Allen a couple weeks ago when we had that access, I mentioned Jack Sanborn. The Bears were not in on him, didn't offer him in terms of bringing him back. And I asked Coach Allen why that was. He says, man, we just got to get faster at that spot. We got to increase our team speed. Enter Ruben Hippolyte the second, linebacker out of Maryland. This guy is absolute blazer. 4.42 speed, not a huge guy, 5'11", 235, 240. But an absolute speed even at the linebacker position. What do you think about that pick?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It was a little surprising. Not the position necessarily, but I guess Ruben Hippolyte, when you look at the guys that we know as we're referencing different draft profiles and scouting reports, he's kind of lower down on the list. But when he was drafted, I remembered what you had told me, what Dennis Allen had told you about just Sanborn and just wanting more speed. That fits that profile. And they don't really have anybody that plays, that other outside backer position. If you're looking maybe at Noah Sewell, sure, but I mean, look, he's a couple years into his career. You haven't seen much. So why not get another young draft pick that does have that speed and obviously needs to learn the system, needs to find a role on special teams most likely.
Of course.
But the linebacker didn't surprise me. Just maybe the player did a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Some people said they had him a little bit lower in terms of his draft projection. Some people said maybe he would have gone undrafted. I don't know. I know he's athletic. I know he's fast. If he's going to come in and compete, he adds to that competition level that we keep hearing about throughout this roster.
No doubt about it, Herb. And this player, next up on the list here, we're going to Zay Frazier out of UTSA, 5th rounder, 169th overall. It's the length at 6'3", but also the speed running in the low four threes. 4 threes. Like when you're that big but that fast, that's enticing. Older prospect as well, but just kind of watching a little bit from him in his best game against North Texas last season, ball skills, the ability to go up and play those 50-50 balls, but come down with the football. That's what was enticing for the Bears when looking at a guy like this. And it's another guy. As a 5th rounder, you need to compete on special teams. You also have a stacked cornerback room ahead of you.
Got some guys in front of you.
You got some guys in front of you, but maybe the maturity level coming into the NFL could help him do that. But also just, he's only a 1-year starter. So it's like he did say like his body's still fresh. So we'll have to see what he can end up doing in mini camps, training camps, and ultimately I think he's got to earn the trust of Richard Hightower first.
Mandatory.
And once you get that trust, you can maybe get some playing time on defense.
Listen, you talk about in that 1 year, he's got 6 interceptions, 9 PBUs. The ball production is undeniable. He's not only, big, long, fast, but he uses those things to his ability. He's able to break on the ball. He's got the long arms, and he's got good ball skills, so he catches the ball when it comes his way. I think he's probably a year, maybe 2 away from, talking about entering that starter competition. But at this point in the draft, again, with a roster that is already deep at the position, I kind of like the pick. I really, really do. I think he can develop. You've got Jalen Johnson, you got Tyreek Stevenson, you got Smitty, Terrell Smith. So you've got some little bit of runway for him to kind of get bigger, get acclimated to the NFL level, and to learn the system. But I think, with his particular profile and skill set, I like the pick. I really do.
Yeah, and we were just talking to one of the scouts earlier too about him. Tyreek Woolen was a guy that came up, also coming from UTSA. But those longer corners that can move, they're enticing, and obviously the Bears have one of them now in Zay Frazier.
Fits what Coach Allen likes to do with his corners. They like to come up and press, and if you can come up with those long arms, press, but then you also have the 4-3 speed to turn and run.
Absolutely.
Makes a ton of sense.
No doubt about it. Also making sense here, adding some more depth on the offensive line. And doing beefy. Luke Newman, 6th-rounder, a guy that played tackle actually at Michigan State, but they saw him transition.
Yeah. Played tackle at Holy Cross.
Holy Cross.
Transferred to Michigan State, moved him to guard. He started to climb up people's draft boards during kind of that all-star series. He goes to the East-West Shrine, and he performs well. They see him able to play center as well. That positional versatility was attractive to the Bears. They found out he can handle the calls, handle the checks at the line of scrimmage. They said, hey, this is a guy worth bringing in, worth developing, worth adding to the mix of saying, hey, how do we get to add depth to our interior of our offensive line? We know they wouldn't address the top 3, right? But now what comes behind that? What does that look like when guys maybe go down? And also, I've been talking about, just how long these guys are going to be around. When you think about the Joe Toonies, I know we want to get them extended, but extended for how long? 2, maybe 3 years? And it's in this time, you can be developing, and then maybe you don't have to spend another draft pick to replace him. Maybe you plug and play this guy. He's learned from a potential Hall of Famer for a couple of years.
I mean, that's always a perk when you can have a young guy on the roster, but also just have some stability ahead of him.
Yep.
And, just being able that someone that did play tackle, transition inside, has the acumen to play at the center spot. It creates more versatility for a player like Luke Newman, who shouldn't see the field anytime soon.
No.
But as long as you're just soaking it in and just being a sponge, that's what a lot of these young players have said as they're coming into the league now. Just be a sponge in front of the veterans. Drew Dahlman's obviously your center, but if you can learn some good things from him as he's doing his thing operating the center position, who knows what can happen with him.
You got Ryan Bates, you got Doug Kramer, you got Bill Murray. Like, there are some guys in the interior already. You're not asking this guy to come in and compete right away. You're asking him to come in, learn, develop, obviously compete his ass off, but not to necessarily come in and, if he touches the field in front of Caleb this year, that's probably not going to be a good thing for the Bears. But in a year or 2, could be well worth the pick.
Well, Herb, the Bears there were a couple scenarios throughout this entire draft where running backs were just taking maybe a pick before.
Had bad luck, man.
Where the Bears were slotted to go, and then you see the Bears immediately trade back.
Yeah.
Trade back happened a couple times just in this draft, but they finally ended up with the running back.
They go with Cal Monagai, and he's a guy out of Rutgers, right? 5'8", 211, blazing speed, but strong, good contact balance. I think he's a guy they want to come in and compete. I think they want to push, Roschon a little bit and find out what is going on with him. I think he had a pretty decent rookie year where people started to look at him and say, okay, maybe there's, something really, really there. Last year kind of takes a step back, but I think the entire offense took a step back. The entire team, I should say, took a step back last year, and I think Roschon was certainly included with that. There was some uncertainty about what his role was. Is he the short yardage back? Well, he's in on first down now. And so, those types of things kind of contributed to that. But I think you bring in another guy that just adds to the room. You also don't forget about Ian Willard, who was the undrafted guy who
ACL.
Made the team out of Howard. Had the ACL in the preseason. I remember that you guys may remember that from Hard Knocks. But adding a guy like this is certainly a good thing. I think the Bears just had some bad luck with the running back. I know everybody wanted them to address running back, and people thought, maybe it should have happened earlier. But go back and look at the draft. Go back and look at what happened right in front of them. You got to factor in a lot of things. Maybe you want them to trade up for Genty. Well, what would have been the price of that? Those types of things are things you have to factor in. And then specifically, you look at what happened right in front of them in the second round when both of the Ohio State running backs,
37 and 38.
Juckins and Trey Henderson, go right before the Bears pick. And the Bears end up with a really good football player. I think I know they certainly feel good, really, really good about Luther Burden III. But, it's all about the board. The Bears stayed true to the board. They were disciplined. They didn't, reach or overreact to things that happened in front of them. They took the best players that were there. And so that left them, only being able to get the running back in the 7th round, but we'll see what comes from it.
Yeah, it's a guy that's never fumbled throughout his entire career.
Never
at Rutgers.
fumbled the football.
Running backs touch the ball a lot, Herb. And
They
to
do.
do that shows dependability. If you can bring that level of play to the NFL, you'll find a way onto the football field eventually.
If coaches trust you, they'll give you the rock. You know what I mean? They will give you the rock. So that is the 2025 draft class for the Chicago Bears, man. I think they did a really, really good job. Certainly, you may have wanted them to come away with an edge or maybe, a running back at a different point. But I think they came into this draft with a plan. I asked Coach Johnson about that plan because we had heard from Ryan Poles about them just saying, hey, we're going to just let this board follow us. We're going to be disciplined about it. As a head coach, that may be a little hard because you're looking like, hey, I need this piece. Can you go give me that guy? But I think, again, the collaborative effort, they were all on the same page. And so they sat, they waited, they were disciplined. I think they came away with some really, really good football players, some that can contribute right away and some that can offer some pretty good depth and some developmental pieces that could turn out to be quite the investment a little bit down the road.
Yeah, no, Herb, I just think when you look at the class in general, especially when you give the roster like an actual look, there weren't that many spots to fill with day one starters.
No.
There weren't. And so when you're looking at the class, you got Loveland, who's behind Komet. You got Trapillo, who's going to be obviously battling for spots at tackle. Burden, like we talked about all the players in the slot there. So you're just adding to the level of competition. And what Ben Johnson said, we're going to turn the dial a couple of notches with the competition. And so for people might feel a little uncomfortable, but what they also said, you got
to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly. So that's what they've done in this draft. So it should be a really competitive training camp, really competitive camps in general from this point on, and I think that will ultimately create a better football team in the end. So, only time will actually tell what this class ends up being.
Sure, it'll be a few years before we really know.
But it's something where I think if Bears fans look at it from that angle, that perspective, I think you can come away being impressed with what Ryan Poles is able to do. If you're stuck to your board and that's who it ended up being, yes, you may have some gripes with positions where guys actually went, but I feel overall pretty good about this class.
Bears got themselves some good football players. Hope you all enjoyed the draft. Happy draft weekend to all of you Bears fans out there, all of you football fans out there. Hey, we'll be kicking off in September before you know it. You got rookie minicamp coming up. You're going to have voluntary then you're going to have vet minicamp, training camp, preseason, and then it'll be time to play real football, man. We'll be here every step of the way. Please make sure you all are here with us. Subscribe to the Bigs Media YouTube page for all of the content. Make sure you are subscribed, like the video, and share with at least one other Bears fan. Make sure you are following Nick and myself on the Twitters as well. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. That's Nick. I'm Herb for the Bigs Media. It's us.